everyone, how are you? This is Tabitha Jane here, and we are going to start the second part 2 of this kind of going back to that hearing that lasted over 2 hours and where a lot of information was gleaned. And in part 1, we just talked about 11, and as you heard, I messed up as I was reading it, and that's what happens. There's so much information here, so much back and forth, so many motions upon compelling information that I get mixed up when I'm even looking at it and trying to read it. I have no capacity to edit, so you all know it is what it is when it's with me. I'm sorry, I don't have time to figure things out. I'm doing the best I can. And as you all saw and loved the Mocking Media channel, and they told me that I didn't have to have permission, so I'm going to kind of borrow their intro again for this, because I think that I am in love with Mocking Media, and I think that Tabitha Jane and Mocking Media could have a baby, and it would turn out to be Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live, because I like myself. I mean, can't you? Affirmations with Stuart Smalley were all that I needed in a week. Affirmations with Stuart Smalley. Our world was better with Saturday Night Live type humor. At the end of the week, no matter what it was, political, anything, it was all fair game. And people could laugh at themselves. They could laugh at themselves in the 70s. Why have we went back to being Quakers that can't laugh? Quakers and Puritans that don't dare laugh because you could be seen laughing, and you would need to go down to the cigar room where the men laugh because the women don't laugh, and they wave in a certain way to not make their arms flap, and everything else. We are going backwards in society. We're becoming prude, and you can't laugh. And don't you ever laugh at somebody else if you can't laugh at yourself, because, and not too self-depreciating, but there is a desire and a need to be able to laugh every once in a while. Have an ongoing laughing session while you're working. It keeps you upbeat, gives energy. This new negative, weird, Handmaid's Tale ass kind of world is just getting too much. So I love Mocking Media. I showed it to you in the intro to the way we're going to do things in this series thing. So the intro. And didn't do it in part 1, but let's do this in part 2. Okay, let's just do this. So, without further ado, here we go. Once again, taking the clip from channel's intro 05 for Katie Joy from the Mocking Media channel. Go there, sub up, totally look at their videos, binge them. They've got so much good work on Michelle and everything. They've got everything down pat. They understand the humor. They understand, and they're not crossing the line either. They're freaking hilarious. And Boo Boo just got a new thing of bonkers treats that he'd been out of for a few days. So they're catnip, chicken and cheddar flavor, and he is filling himself up between that and meat sticks, acting like he's never been fed before. So, sorry for the interruption. Let's get Boo Boo fed, and then hopefully he'll take a nap right here at my feet, and I can get focused, because God knows if Boo Boo doesn't get his nap, there is no peace whatsoever. Okay, so, okay, Boo Boo, you be good for a minute. Here we go. Let's listen.
Do you like to wear diapers while live streaming? I just love wearing diapers. They're super comfy. On my channel, I promise that I'll never leave the screen. When nature calls, I'll just pinch one off in my diaper. It's the least I can do for my viewers. What about Josh Duggar? Do you like to talk about Josh Duggar? Holy fuck balls. I do too.
Under the fair use Fair Use Act and disclaimer of Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use using the four-factor balancing act test, where you say that a small portion of the original material was used and that new work is critique, satire, or education. Y'all know I love satire. That the commercial value of the original is not diminished. Remember, you see somebody else using my entire content and super chat y'all. That's not honoring fair use. Don't take the commercial value of my work and kill my channel down to 30% while you skyrocket and then claim that I stole your work. But anyway, that's part of fair use, and we got to say the fair use. You see my stuff, say, hey, yeah, that's Tabitha Jane. She did that. She went to the courtroom. Here's her channel if you want to hear it from her. Shouldn't be that hard to remember to cite your sources when you're taking somebody else's stuff, just like I just did for Mocking Media. Okay, anyway, and new work is predominantly original product of use, and I found that from YouTube, from Emerging Ed Tech and Termly. So fair use, you bunch of bots. I hope you hear my fair use. Even though Mocking Media said I could, even though this is my own thing, it seems the bots are looking for fair use. So there you go. Go hear a little bit more.
If there's anything that gets my bottom soggy, it's talking about Josh Duggar. What about Cody Brown? Do you like to talk about Cody Brown? I just love
Cody Brown. The idea of Cody Brown going around in that, what was it, a midget? It's like this car that is like too small for him. Isn't that it? Doesn't he drive a midget? What is that called? Is it a midget 3000? I don't know what it is, but it's a convertible that's like too small for him. He's a bigger man, and if you're a bigger man, you can't really fit in a convertible. You look like Fred Flintstone, and he would go around in his little convertible, tearing around to each wife's house. And you know, after you've been a married woman for a while, you're like, being a sister wife might not be all that bad because you can push the husband out when he's kept you up all night, moving around like a rotisserie chicken with the blanket over his head. But anyway, I think that appeals to a lot of women. A sister wife thing where you have your own house. But anyway,
Cody Brown. Just look at his crotch. And look at that beautiful hair. Damn it. Another joy-gasm.
Damn it.
Just filled another one.
Damn it.
What about parenting? Would you like to learn about being a good parent?
Yes, we all go. We all the caters want to be just like
being a good parent. Holy shit. So would I. If you haven't.
Because that's why she was in all the parenting groups, right? She went to all of the parenting groups to learn how to be a better mom, right? It wasn't about what you needed to get for your child so that you could get the qualifiers to get the state aid and get a nurse in that house. Now, was it?
Any advice, please contact me immediately. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
And that is the best intro ever to go into this mess here. And I did get to thinking when I was considering what it's like for one person out of the 3,800 to leave Hanover in a day, or all of the school children. And I thought, you know what? No wonder Katie Joy has never went to court for herself. Maybe she doesn't know the way. Maybe because I offered her attorney, because like I say, her attorney is a nice lady. Like, she's a nice lady. Like a nice grandma mentor kind of. And I think that probably really appeals to the Katie Joy. I think that she can kind of tell Katie Joy in a nice, loving way that she needs to shut the fuck up. Whereas maybe a man couldn't do that because she seems to not get along with the men or the women. But certain women, maybe the nice teacher kind of. Because if it comes down to me needing to give everybody a ride to the Wright County courthouse, obviously I've found the way to it. So maybe I need to go and pick up Jennifer Moore so she's there on time. And I need to pick up Katie Joy so that she can attend, because her saying that she's been, in court with Robert Shin now for 2 years. Yeah. These people think they have it bad having to deal with him like they have. Yeah, well, try being me. I've had to deal with him for 2 years in the courtroom. Bish, you haven't been in the courtroom. I'm there. Remember? I'm the one following you around, and if I'm following you around, turn your ass around in your diaper and say hello. But I'm not following you. I'm going to the hearing because you don't go. Somebody's got to go to the hearing and tell everybody what's going on, because what you're thinking's going on isn't right. But, you've been confused on the reporting before. Anyway, so we are still in this 2-hour hearing that was it was very good litigating on both sides. It really was. That basically, let's get a good picture there for you. There you are. Litigating, I suppose, in front of a judge. Well, you are arguing your side for your client. And look, if you have enough money to hire an attorney, you don't have to go to court. There's a lot of people who would say to me, she doesn't have to go to court. She doesn't have to. She can have her attorney tell her. I'm going to just shut my mouth up on that. But, it is her right. She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. I'll just leave it at that. But, KJ, if you need a ride, you just let me know. I'll, I better shut up. But, just let me know if you need help finding the courthouse. Maybe you could just follow me or something. Oh, no, I'm following you. That's right. That's right. I have to keep the lies straight that are said about me. Anyhow. Okay. So, we got through 11, and then Amber said, okay, yeah, we're at that point, because remember, the judge didn't make any decisions that day. She let each side say their whole thing, and then I thought she was going to rule, and then she's like, let's looking at this, maybe after Puxatawny Phil lets us know if there's 6 more weeks of winter or not. Something like that. Anywho, we go to Interrogatory 13, and Amber said, okay, so basically, if you're saying this, and it goes to that the Wilkings provided all of the information to your client, then indeed, that is the answer then to the interrogatory, that indeed, if the Wilkings did it, then write that down. That would be an answer, right? Which Wilking, their address, their contact number, their email, and each Wilking can say what they said to your client, Katie Joy, and then we will derive and say, okay, so you gave this information, great, where did you get that information? And we'll start working our way down to figure out where in the world we went from, oh, it's a sunny day out there, to shin waterboards and sex traffics. It's just not the natural progression of thought, essentially, was the consensus, was the conjecture that she was getting at. And she said that, if that's the answer, they're entitled to that. And Jennifer Moore said, it just falls under journalistic notes. And Amber shook her head. This was tense. This was that litigating where it's almost like a tennis match, where here you go, boom, here you go, ball your side, bat it back over, we're just playing tennis, we're ping pong, back and forth. There was tension in there because Amber was frickin' done. And Jennifer Moore is playing the little game of, oh, I'm just a little woman. I don't really know. I don't know where to go in the courtroom. I don't know what my client's doing. She could be the smartest woman in the room for all we know. Doubt it, but who knows? So anywho, Amber shook her head. And it was on. Because Jennifer Moore goes, well, she states her source, or she states it's an opinion, and it really has nothing to do with the Wilkings. And it's like, oh, wait, didn't you just say that that's basically how all this came about, that it was some circle jerk of journalists getting together, or when the story broke, Wilkings, Derek's, what? Okay. So Amber looks at the judge and goes, look, I don't know how much of a broken record you want me to sound like, but 15 and 16 are the same thing. Okay? And let's look at that. Because if we go here, back to the interrogatories, and we say that if we're looking at 13 in the interrogatory, 13 is where, if that's 15, that's 14. I don't see where it's numbered as the 13. It goes from 12 and then it goes to that. So it goes from 12 to that, where I really don't see the interrogatory 13 on that one. Let me see if I can find 13 here. 13. Essentially, 13 says, defendants object to any interrogatory seeking information about statements pertaining to individuals or entities that are not parties hereto. Okay, so that's where the Wilkings are not a party to this lawsuit, and that part gets played as well. And it says, subject to these generation objections and subject to those objections noted elsewhere herein, defendants respond as follows. So then 13 has a subsection where it says, state specifically and not in a general fashion the name, address, and phone numbers of all of the individuals who helped prepare your answers to these interrogatories, requests for production and requests for admission. And the answer there was Catherine Mansky Paulson, counsel of record. Number 2, identify each person defendants are aware of who may have knowledge or who is likely to have discoverable information relevant to the facts and circumstances surrounding the matters which are subject of the claims of this lawsuit. For each person, include a detailed summary of the matters you believe that they may have knowledge of. That came within, remember this, objection. Jennifer Moore would have objected to that here in under this section here of 13, because she would have said, and this is where she said again, and this is broken record, objection calls for information protected by the journalist privilege outlined in Minnesota Statute 595.021 and Cervantes versus Time Incorporated, judged by the 8th Circuit Court in 1972. Without waiving said objection, see initial disclosures. To the extent that plaintiffs have not provided substantiative discovery responses, defendants are hard-pressed to identify individuals who might have relevant information. Then number 3 is identify each person defendants expect to call as a witness at trial. The answer there was unknown as of yet. Okay, so that's where we're getting into some of these subsets in what is referencing 13 as itself. So 13, if I go over to the other part, because it goes from 12 to 14, there's not a 13 in the interrogatories. It goes like 14, 15. So 13 is not clear, so that I'm doing my best to kind of put it back together and say, okay, is that what we were doing here as 13? Let me see if I can get it under kind of the umbrella of discovery 13. Because over in the defendant's answers to plaintiff's interrogatories, we have our 13 stating defendants object to any interrogatory seeking information about statements pertaining to individuals or entities that are not parties hereto. Subject to these generation objections and subject to those objections noted elsewhere herein, defendants respond as okay. So it's basically saying, who'd you talk to? Okay, that's a whole lot of nonsense for who did you talk to? Who told you this? Okay. And then when Amber said, Judge, I don't know how much you want me to sound like a broken record. And then I have Jennifer Moore said that 15 and 16 are the same. And Amber said, then let's go to 17. And that is where the human trafficking and sex trafficking comment is in there. And if we look at 17 over in the interrogatories, then we have 17 saying, basically, what information was provided to you supporting your statement that 7M Films Incorporated and Robert Shin are involved in human trafficking. For each fact, statement, etc., please provide the name and contact information for the person who provided the information. Okay. Katie Joy and or her attorney said, ready? Here we go. We did this before. Ready? Objection! Okay. Let the diaper leak. Let's do the diaper leak here.
I just love wearing diapers.
There we go. Objection as to form. This interrogatory may not be a fair paraphrase of any statement defendants may have made. Without a specific citation, defendants can only answer generally. All sources are either named in the posts or subject to the journalist's privilege outlined in Minnesota Statute 595.021 through 25 and, ready, Cervantes versus Time Incorporated, judged by the 8th Circuit in 1972. Without waiving said objections, defendants are also reviewed in court files, including, now, perk your ears up, because this is relevant, I believe. This is where I think Katie Joy gleaned this information as she does with everybody. What she did, because it says, without waiving said objections, defendants also reviewed court files. So Katie Joy put her pointy-ass nose and crooked-ass chin in and reviewed court files, including Chung versus Shin, et al., Orange County file number 30 TAC 2009 TAC 00291043 in the supplemental Circuit of California in 2011. And Katie Joy may have reviewed Lee versus Alpha Plus Realty Incorporated file number 18 TAC 84754/414/027 Labor Communication in 2013 and RCP Financial Incorporated versus Lee. Los Angeles County file number 22STCV 34672 supplemental court in California 2002, and various social media posts published by interested parties and news articles published by other journalists. Okay, right there, her attorney put that in there, and other journalists, because it is Jennifer Moore's position that Katie Joy is a journalist in this hearing, but we'll talk about that. As she sat in that session with the other journalists having that kumbaya braiding session, and, you know, the circle jerk that never happened. Maybe it did. Maybe there was this, you know what? There was all that talk about Toad running around in the backyard with a white sheet over his head or whatever it was. And people thought that it was something, from the deep south and stuff. No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Katie Joy having her meeting with other journalists in the backyard of the forest of Hanover in the middle of the night with the rainbow flag that she says the neighbors shattered, but I don't see how they would have came up to her house and shattered, or why they would have, because in that neighborhood they would have just thought, oh, that's a nice rainbow flag. Because why would they think it's anything when you want to have a rainbow thing? That is because, you know what? We have a couple husbands in our neighborhood, and they fly their flag and nothing happens with it. It does not get tattered or anything. Nobody would, because the husbands are really cool. And nobody would even think anything of it if Katie Joy had a rainbow flag out there, because she's saying that the neighbors thrashed her rainbow flag because they don't agree with her sexuality. Her neighbors are seeing her posing as a heterosexual couple with a child. So why would they go and thrash a rainbow flag? That is so... It didn't happen. Lies, 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 just like the journalist. Anyway, I digress. Let's do a diaper.
Love wearing diapers.
Okay? Now. All right. We're going to stick to 17 because I've got to say something on 18 too. So I'm going to put the pen there. Jennifer Moore said, so Katie Joy did. She answered that fully. When she said Chung versus Shin in the review of the article, she did. She answered that as fully as she could have. Now, there was one other source, maybe. And then she said maybe there's one other source, and maybe there's not another source. Some of you guys who watch the case closely might know that basically it was inferred there was another source. But Katie Joy goes down deep and just gets the records and finds out this stuff and then goes with it. If all of us were judged on previous lawsuits and what they claim about us from our former spouses or anything, we would all be in trouble because people can say anything at any time. And then when it whittles down, emotions are set aside. The whole truth comes out about what was said to make the other person say this. It's a whole different thing than what is initially filed in. I don't know if she has not been in enough real life situations to understand that happens, and that when people are mad, they say all kinds of things. And if somebody then later uses that as fact against you, it's not truthful. It's not based in fact. It's based in emotion, oftentimes from intimate relationships where the feelings and emotions are high. And think about the things you say when you're in a fight with your spouse. Dear God, right? Say you're in a big fight and you go and put everything down in writing. And that 5% of your marriage is then what your marriage is defined as by somebody like Katie Joy. That's what happens here. And how she has went on to twist the knife in the sister wives realm. Losing a child is something that didn't Dr. Phil say that our language, or there's certain languages that don't even have words for it because it's something so unfathomable. So imagine if you suffered that loss, God forbid, and then you had some asshole in Hanover wearing a diaper.
You're super comfy. Super comfy.
Twisting the knife, saying that child took their own life because of what you did on their birthday party at this. You think they're not feeling guilty enough? What the hell are you? Why do you talk like this? Why do you do the things you do? So people are wondering. I'm wondering. I wonder why. I don't understand. I don't understand why you continue to comment like this. I don't know. I don't know. Because if you're a journalist, then you would have enough sense that while you were in litigation, you would not continue to post salacious things that make you look like you are trying to be the next shock jock. But she continues onward. And we're supposed to be like, she did answer that. She really came up. She did that. Oh, good, Katie. Change your neighbor.
On my channel, I promise that I'll never leave the screen. Never leave the
See? Okay, so then Amber said, it's not an answer. That what you provided is not the answer. An answer is ask and answer. That, in fact, she could say, is Robert Shin a crappy person? Sure, maybe he's an asshole. But how do you go from an asshole to human trafficking? The disconnect is there. How do you go from, reviewing things and seeing things that maybe former business partners or intimate partners wrote about you, that you've done this or you've done that, or I don't know, maybe he's a womanizer. I don't know, because I don't know Robert Shin, and I have no reason to know Robert Shin because I'm in the middle of Minnesota and I have no idea who he is, and I couldn't care less. Except for this lawsuit, of course. He's a name in a lawsuit. So, Amber was saying the same thing, is that where do you go from, okay, yeah, he looks like an asshole, to human trafficking? They're just not in the same vernacular. And then she says, where did Katie Joy get this? How did it come up? And then Jennifer Moore was like, well, it was at the post. Was it the post itself? And then Amber Smith said it's an information. Okay. And that pretty much went there to, then we went to Interrogatory 18. Where Jennifer Moore said, okay, so now Interrogatory 18. And that one is where we go and we say, what information was provided to you supporting your statement that 7M Films is a cult? For each fact, statement, etc., please provide the name and contact information for the person who provided this information. And if you're taking notes, the information that they're asking for is who told you that 7M Films Incorporated is a cult. And, if y'all remember, Jennifer Moore, attorney for the Katie Joy, said, objection! As to form, this interrogatory may not be a fair paraphrase of any statement defendants may have made. Without a specific citation, defendants can only answer generally. All sources are either named in the posts or subject to the journalist's privilege outlined in Minnesota Statute 595-021, Tax 025, and Cervantes versus Time in the 8th Circuit Court in 1972. Without waiving said objection, defendants also reviewed court files, including Chung versus Shin, Orange County file, and the supplemental Lee versus Alpha Plus Realty, Labor and Communication, RCP Financial, Lee versus Los Angeles, Financial Incorporated versus Lee, Los Angeles County file, supplemental court, and other journalists. Supplemental court, California, various social media posts published by interested parties, and news articles published by other journalists. Again, she's inferring her client is, in fact, a journalist. Finally, defendants note that the conclusion that 7M Films Incorporated and or the Shekinah Church is a cult would be a statement of opinion based upon cumulative reporting that is protected under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Okay, and then we brought our founding fathers into this. No!
When nature calls, I'll just pinch one off in my diaper. It's the...
There you go. Fair use, fair use, fair use. Let's see. So. We know now, as the judge had went. The judge granted 17. The judge said, yes, the information provided to Katie Joy supporting the statement that 7M Films Incorporated are involved in human trafficking needs to be answered. Now, the judge did not grant 18 where it says what information was provided to you to your statement that 7M Films is a cult. So we've got 17 and 18 being very similar to the fact that, okay, one information was provided to you supporting your statement that 7M Films is a cult. Okay? Now, 18 essentially stops at that. 17 goes further and says, nope. 18 uses the word cult. Okay, so we're going to do this. 18 says cult. 17 says human trafficking. So 17 was granted to say who said about the human trafficking. 18 was not granted to say who told you it was a cult. There you go. Now, we move towards Amber did a really good job of providing some demonstrable evidence she said that in a newspaper there are articles written by journalists. And then there is an opinion section in the newspaper. I mean, and we're talking, back in the day when you had Dear Abby, I don't think Dear Abby still exists or whatever, but the Dear Abby section or opinions or people writing in saying things or whatever was different than the parts of the newspaper which were based in fact by the journalists and reporters who went and did their work and could cite their sources and develop that story and the characters and show that relevancy and really bring that story to the surface in a way that the reader would be attracted to the headline and the supporting information and research done by that journalist was there to support that headline. And the sources are cited and it's done. Whereas you have your opinion section and it could be, Bob Johnson from Lower Hanover says that, the school board is a bunch of poopy heads. And that's his opinion. Well, what made him decide that the school board is a bunch of poopy heads? Well, you know what? When he went there, he wasn't listened to, and they were all sitting there with their feet up on a desk, and he didn't like it and thought they were a bunch of poopy heads. And that's his opinion, and he's sticking to it. Whereas a journalist would be like, these are the people who were elected to the school board. They are this one, and they have voted in this way, and this one is posing this. That's my demonstrable evidence building on what what 7M, what Amber was saying in her example of a newspaper articles versus opinion section. That the people putting an opinion up are not the journalists. There is a clear difference in the writing and the way that they are. And enough said there. Now, ready for some tea? Gotta get some tea. Let me see if I can find this part over here. Let's go over to the intro here where we have some tea, because we're going to drop some tea. And I'm going to fair use. And I'm going to say, don't call me a racist. I am just reporting what I heard here, because we're going to talk about some tea here. We're going to use some more of this info from Mocking Media to do this part. Maybe. Pour the tea.
And finally, what about tea channels? Would you like to find yourself a good tea channel? If the answer is yes, then go to another channel. If the answer...
Tea with the tea. You want to have the tea? Go to another channel, because you're not going to get it. I mean, honestly, I hope that the jury sees Mocking Media. I hope that Mocking Media comes up and... Mocking Media, I won't offer you room and board here. Come stay with me.
If the answer is no, then come on over to Katie's place. I'm full to the brim with all the tea you're looking for.
Like, subscribe, and vomit. Here's the tea. I'm going to spill, and there is no way for me to not say this and sound racist. I am telling you what was said in that court. And it's not meant to be racist, but listen to this. Here's the tea. Jennifer Moore stated that essentially there was inference that the black dancers were mad at them for being black. Right? Right. Does that make any sense? That one lost me. There's got to be something more in, and maybe you guys know where that was and where that came from. I don't know where that was posted, how that was posted, but somehow the black dancers were mad at them for being black. Somebody was mad at somebody for being black in the dancer thing. I didn't get this concept, went right over my head, and I'm going, what in the Sam hell did I miss there? Okay. And she referred to Katie Joy's prior reporting as cumulative in that concept about the black dancers being mad at them for being black. Something like that. And that as much as Jennifer Moore literally tried to explain this concept that I didn't understand, and I don't think anybody did, she sat there and she looked in the air and grasped around and moved her hands around and ultimately said she didn't know how to answer it. Because I don't think anybody does. I think that there are some things that are said when people are under the influence, that they post some things that are really, really pushing the envelope as to being, have racist undertones. I'm just going to say it like that. And if you look at the population of Hanover and whatnot, you can see that, well, Katie Joy is coming from a population. Hanover's population is I think it's 98%. Let's see. Hold, please. Hold, please. Hold, please. I'm going to get the demographics. Because in my college, it was racist to say that somebody is black. I don't have a problem with somebody saying that I'm white with brown sun damaged skin. But like when we were writing our papers and whatnot, and we were citing information in different cultures and stuff, you could not say, even if a study that you were citing about smoking or whatever would say that, you know, black population is this, you would get in trouble for saying that. You would need to say African American. So I don't know kind of how Katie Joy doesn't get called out on some of that. And maybe that's where, you know, journalist versus reporter versus someone spewing their mouth on the internet. I don't know. But if we look at Hanover, Minnesota, racial makeup. The racial makeup for Hanover is 96% white, 0.6% African American, 0.2% Native American, 1.5% Asian, and 0.7% from other races, and 1 is from 2 or more races. When you put that against the population of Minnesota as a whole, Minnesota has white and non-Hispanic as 97% of its population. Hold on. No, that's not right. That's Hanover. Let me see. I can't find. Okay, so basically the population and diversity of Hanover, Minnesota is home to a population of 3,500 people. So this one didn't catch it, or 300, from which 100% are citizens. As of 2021, 2.31% of Hanover, Minnesota residents were born outside the country, and that's 81 people. 81 people out of the 3.5. In 2021, there were 83.4 times more white non-Hispanic residents, 3.42 thousand people in Hanover than any other race or ethnicity. There were 41 Asian, non-Hispanic, and 16 2+ non-Hispanic residents, the second and third most common ethnic groups. We do have a lot of Hmong in Minnesota that went back to the Vietnam War, where there was a part of the back country where our American troops could not figure out how to get over, I think it was the Rumby River. And so there were people locally in Vietnam of the Hmong, Hmoung, of the Hmong people who wanted the war to be over, and they were tired of the bloodshed. And so they showed our American troops how to cross that river to get what they needed done so that the troops could pull out. In so doing, our country, America, gave that population, the Hmong, amnesty in our country because they had essentially hurt their own. And so the Hmong were brought here to Minnesota. I think we have the biggest population of Hmong in the United States still, outside of Vietnam itself. So in that area there are Hmong, so that would be in the other Asian. They are incredible farmers and gardeners. They make the most beautiful plants. They bring them to the farmers market. It's really cool. So if we look at that, I don't think that Katie Joy can be tactful, because it is my experience that in this part of the United States, there's not enough diversity. So where she's coming from of a population of that, I could see her being insensitive and saying something about the dancers, like the black ones were mad at them for being black, or the white ones were mad at them for being black, something like that really lacks tact and tone and sensitivity to that. I could see that post coming from her, and that is something I'm struggling to find the words to describe how I feel about a person in her demographic being able to cause $4 million loss to somebody in LA. She doesn't have the political influence. She doesn't have local influence. She's not all of these things that you would think that somebody with that much power would have. She's not worldly. How can somebody sitting in Hanover, this little tiny town in Minnesota, have the power to affect the halftime game for the Clippers and all of the dancers that work so hard to get there? How should she have the right to get them fired because she wanted to run her mouth on the internet? Why is that fair? Why is this okay? Why did this happen? Because she contacted the advertisers. And how does she have advertisers? How does she know about advertisers? Because that's how she makes her money on YouTube, which monetizes her and gives her this platform. Without her having YouTube, she could not negatively impact somebody to the point of $4 million, because that's what's at stake here. I don't know how to put it into words, but I hope that that is considered at some point, that she should not have this kind of influence, that it was wrong for the contracts to be canceled by the Clippers based on the opinions of one person may or may not wear a diaper in Hanover, because she posed as other people. Many people had her subs call, and how many people called the Clippers based on her command? And isn't that exactly what she says that she is against? She's against somebody having influence to be able to do that, but yet she is modeling that same behavior of what she says that she despises so much. Does she despise these things and talk about these things being wrong? Or does she aspire to be them? Is she studying them? Or is she exposing them? These are the questions that I have. And those are the things that, I go down the rabbit hole to try and figure out. So basically, Amber said from there that, again, interrogatories are answering a question. When JM says, well, I don't know how to answer, Amber says, answer the question. That interrogatories and archives, if you can't respond to them in the same way. And then they went in and they talked about an iPad. And I don't really understand what that was about. There's a lot of this that I didn't understand. So from the comments about the ethnicity and whatnot, this all went over my head. Those of you who have been following her for years understand this. I don't. I am going to be the first to tell you I don't know what all of this was about. It was going over my head. I admit that. And so, please feel free to explain in the comments kind of what I was missing if you are tuning into what it is. And Jennifer Moore said that Katie Joy never stated that the Clippers are cutting ties on Instagram. This went over my head as well, because if we go to Interrogatory 40, it references that. So where we went over here, not a lot was determined there. It was just more, like I say, of whether or not this happened, this didn't happen, ask and answer the basics. Okay.
Do you like to wear diapers while live streaming?
Sorry, I keep doing that. Fair use. That if we go to Interrogatory 40, which was what Jennifer Moore then referenced, it is stated as, what information was provided to you supporting your statement that the Clippers are cutting ties with 7M? ? So, question is, what information was provided to you supporting your statement? And then we have our let's do air quotes all together, because this is what Katie Joy sometimes does not use proper grammar, punctuation, etc., in these kind of manic postings that she does. So in parentheses, it is alleged that Katie Joy said, the Clippers are cutting ties with 7M? ? And so the question in the interrogatory is, what information was provided to you supporting your statement that, in quotations, the Clippers are cutting ties with 7M? ? For each fact, statement, etc., please provide the name and contact information. Essentially, Amber saying, "Where did you hear that?" And her attorney states that KJ never stated that the Clippers are cutting ties on Instagram. Now, again, either Jennifer Moore is the smartest person in that room, or she's playing enough that then the questions get to answer their own questions and espouse more questions. Because if it comes down to Katie Joy writing the words like she does in that weird kind of cryptic scribbly font, I could just imagine it would say, "The Clippers are cutting ties with 7M? Question mark." Her attorney says, KJ never stated Clippers are cutting ties on Instagram. Yeah. And no. It's a few words put together. Is it a statement? Is it a question? It's got a question mark. Is it an announcement? If it's an announcement, why would it have a question mark? These things I've tried to decipher and I can't figure it out. Okay. So then we go over here and we go to Interrogatory 41. And Interrogatory 41 states, "What information was provided to you supporting your statement that 7M Films Incorporated dancers are all falsely married to their spouses and are not allowed to live with each other? For each fact, statement, etc., please provide the name and contact information for the person." And as we all know how this one went, objection as to form. Interrogatory may not be a fair paraphrase. Blah, 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 blah. Cervantes, blah, 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 blah. She got the information from these things. Defendant can only answer generally. And various social media posts published by interested parties, news articles published by other journalists. The interrogatory may, and this is a big word, the interrogatory may refer to a post which cited an anonymous source who was identified as a friend of Gordon. Okay? Are your ears peeking up? You're starting to know what I'm saying here. And then it says the Wilking family also stated that they did not know if Miranda Derrick was actually married. Okay. So here we go. And that's the tea on that 41, because I'm giving you the tea. She can't. You know, I'm serving it up hot. Here's the tea. So Jennifer Moore said that it's a confidential source and it may be a friend of Gordon's, and that the Wilking family was the one who said Miranda's married or not. That Jennifer Moore said, is there actual malice? Maybe. Now, at this point, she said that information was provided that Mr. and Mrs. Derrick do have a marriage certificate. And Jennifer Moore said that the source may have been wrong. And Amber bit right there. She was right there. There's blood in the water. And she said, source? Okay. Source? Because Jennifer Moore said, well, the source may have been wrong. And Amber's like, source? Okay. Who's the source? Source? Okay. Again, we've got this tension in the room. And Jennifer Moore says, basically, they are married. Just like that. Okay. And that was that. Okay, so let me peek ahead and see what the judge said on 40. Nine, 14, and 20, 8 and 16, 19, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 19, 20. I don't see where she addressed that one. Let me see. Nope. I don't see where the judge said, and I'm not saying it's not there. I'm saying that I don't have it in these 18 piles of paper then where the judge ruled on 40 that I can see. 40 and 41. Maybe you guys have it. Huh. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have it. October 30. I don't see it for 40. No, I don't see it. But now remember, if there are things that could be confidential. And although it was 7Ms who got the confidentiality, either side can say, hey, this is confidential. We don't want people like Tabitha Jane to see this. So let's keep this confidential. So then we get to a good stopping point, because the next gets pretty messy. The next part gets pretty messy. So let's end this as part 2. Again, let me know in the comments what you did while you were listening to my work. I love hearing it. I love knowing how busy you guys all are, because sometimes I feel just so busy that I just cannot, like, the idea of like sitting down and reading a book. I don't know when that would happen. I get time to do these things that are on my mind, and I sit down, and sometimes it's at 4 in the morning, sometimes it's 5 in the afternoon, who knows? And I sit down and I record and work a little bit on it, and then I walk away and come back to the piles and binders and all of that good stuff. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And if you feel inclined, please tip me at Tabitha Jane 13 on my Cash App. And again, thank you once again to Mocking Media for giving me the giggles and a joygasm. Thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, we will end, my friends.